I just listened to the podcast between, it wasn't a podcast, it was more a debate between David Wood and Daniel Haqiqatjou on the topic Islamic dilemma. And for the record, I want to register this that I miss Nabil Qureshi a lot. Not because David didn't do a good job. David was so good. I mean, David has always been good when it comes to these kind of situations. And I mean, David and Nabil had been like very close to each other, and their approach towards tackling such issues is almost the same. But I think that Nabil had a different kind of edge while dealing with the Muslims. I remember his debate with Shabir Ali. I mean, when it comes to giving the references from Quran and using the Arabic and then using the translation and having the concepts, Nabil was like a step ahead. There's no disrespect to David for that. I would say that David has the same kind of grip on the subject, but Nabil was like really good when he was dealing with his own ex religion fellows. Oh, okay, that was just about giving respect to Nabil Qureshi. I would say like I took some points because it was a long debate and it took me like more than 4 hours to finish it because I was watching it in during some breaks and trying to finish it in one go. But then the dinner was served. I took a 15 minutes break. Then we started talking about something else. Then I have puppies. So I started checking on them, but at the same time, I kept watching it on the TV. So I started taking notes, and I want to talk about it right away. But then maybe tomorrow, when I'm going to sit with Doctor Sabr Michael, I'm going to talk about this again. But that's going to be a different perspective. This is purely what I think about it. I think that David was exactly to the point. He was focused, unwavered, and committed, not to get carried away. Just like something like John Wick approach towards dealing the whole situation. Like you remember when that Russian guy is talking to his friend about John Wick. He says John Wick is a man of focus, commitment, and what is it? Um, Focus, commitment, and sheer will. And for Daniel Hakikachu, I would say something that he didn't know anything about. So David was like extremely focused, and he was so cool. Yeah, he was not emotional at all. He didn't get carried away by whatever Daniel was saying and all those distractions and creating false evidence. It didn't affect David, and David was like exactly to the point after listening to all the nonsense of Daniel Hakikachu. He still got to the point and said, "Okay, that's not the point. Point is that this is the Islamic dilemma, that what Quran says, the Muslim practices are the opposite to that." So all the references he used from the history and from Hadith, and Hadith is already like is just like the holes in the narrative guy has already said that Hadith is just a history. And then I left a note for the on one of the podcasts for from Apostle Prophet and David Wood that actually they don't understand Urdu much. I think they don't understand Urdu at all. It's one of the religious clerics who is very modern in his ideas, and he is trying to project the softer image of Islam. And I listen to him a lot because he makes a lot of sense. But of course, when it comes to certain ideas, especially the Quranic expressions and Quranic details, he is also almost of the same view. This guy was in Pakistan, and then it made him his ideology and his philosophy and the way of his expression. It made it difficult for him to live in Pakistan, so he moved to Malaysia for some time, and then from Malaysia he moved to United States, and now he's in Dallas, Texas. And he has his own academy or a madrasa or a center, dawa center over there where they sit, they make all kind of videos, and he's trying to disseminate Islam. He's going to give dawa from a different perspective and from a different angle. And his recent video has caused a stir too, especially in Pakistani mullahs, because Islam in Egypt and Islam in Saudi Arabia could be considered the Islam, the original Islam. But the real pain in the ass Islam is in Pakistan, and Pakistani clerics thinks that they know more about Islam than anybody else in the world, and then the Pakistani Muslims are also of the opinion that perhaps they are more committed and loyal to Islam than any other Muslim person in the entire universe. But that's an entirely different topic. Coming back to Javed Ahmed Ghamidi, this other cleric who is in Dallas, Texas now, he also said something like that. He said that hadith is not is not deen. Hadith is not deen. Hadith is history, and history is always shady because it was written like there's a big gap between Muhammad and then when the books of hadith, like they were compiled, and in between there's a large time, and then you have the people who were sahabas who were like directly interacting with Muhammad, and then there was those tabis who were like the new sahabas, and then the third generation and the fourth generation. So there's a process of verifying and vindicating a hadith and to make it a sahih hadith by checking on the references after reference after reference after reference, and that makes hadith just a history. Hadith is not a religion. Hadith is not Quran, and this is Javed Ahmed Ghamdi's stance on it, which made many Muslim clerics and all the ulamas and fuqahas in Pakistan and in India, they just got very much disturbed by that. But so I'm just getting carried away. Thank God David didn't do that. But I think that Daniel Haqiqatjou tried to create a lot of distraction, and he came up. He knew that he's not going to have the answers to all those questions, which and all those references that David is going to put together and show and ask answers for. So just like all those other Islamic clerics and ulamas and fuqahas and all those apologists that I have been seeing in the last 35 years, starting from Ahmed Didat and Zakir Naik and Ali Dawa and Muhammad Hijab and Shabir Ali and then Daniel Haqiqatjou too. The modus operandi is the same. Like the first thing first they do is that they cause a distraction by coming up with different references or create a miracle of Quran, projecting some numbers, trying to do something uh, different, uh, which is not actually related to the topic, and create a kind of distraction so that people could get carried away and the whole effect is diluted and the impact is lessened. Then they and if then they go to the other topics, which are the irrelevant topics, and then they try to mix those two topics to create a kind of an amalgam. And the third, the most important thing is that Ahmed Didat started it by raising the voice and then ridiculing uh, the other apologist who is either Jew or a Christian, and he's debating with them. So raising the voice is a typical Muslim behavior because they think that actually, when I was looking at Daniel Hakikachu, or I look at any of the Muslim apologists during those debates, I know what's going on inside their hearts because I, as a kid and as a young boy, and as an adult in Pakistan, have seen all this happening when they are doing debates with non-Muslims. So non-Muslim debates are already over in Pakistan, but then the Obandis are having debates with the Barelvis, Ahle Hadith are having uh, debates with what is the Arabic Islam people, Wahhabis, and then Shias are having debates with. Shias are nicer actually when it comes to debates. I mean, in terms of mannerism and etiquettes and behavior, but when Shias and Sunnis are having, so they use foul language, they try to ridicule, and then they raise their voice, and then they show anger, and this anger, is one reason that which leads to violence, and this is the reason, like in countries like the UK, uh, people are afraid of them, and that's why there is a two-tier policing and two-tier justice and two-tier, uh, treatment, the preferred treatment for the Muslims because they're afraid of them. But anyway, raising voice and ridiculing. So Daniel Hikikochu tried to raise his voice too, and he gave that fake smile and he was looking at him, but he could not actually ridicule uh, David. Reason being that he was so embarrassed and he didn't know what to say. So I think he's pretty new to it. He thinks that he knows his subject, but this subject was too much for him. So, since my childhood in Pakistan, we learned about all these challenges that David actually mentioned. Yeah, and we have been listening to all this nonsense that we respect Ahle Kitab. Ahle Kitab means the people of the book, and then they say that we believe in those books. So, and if you ask them, like, have you ever, and they have like three books mainly which they talk about. One is the Bible, which is Torah, they call it Torah, and the word in Pakistan they use is Torah. The other is Zabur, which is for the book of Psalms, and then Injil, which is the gospel. So they say we believe in all these three books. We believe in Torah, we believe in Zabur, and we believe in Injil. But if you ever ask them, like, have you ever opened those books and have read those books, and do you know what's written over there? They don't know it. And then right away they say because we don't want to open those books because Quran is the final book and Quran is the answer to everything and whatever the holes in the narratives are there in the Bible, in Torah, in Zabur or in Injil, Quran addresses to all those holes in the narratives. So therefore they believe that they don't need to open those books and read from them, though they say that we believe in them. I'll come to that point. I mean, like, I'm not going to too much details into how David tackled the whole situation because David didn't have to tackle the whole situation. David created the situation, I think, and Daniel failed to tackle the situation. And all credit goes to David's there's mannerism and his knowledge and the grip on the subject and the way he dealt with it, and he never let it slide for one single moment. So hats off to David. I think the whole concept of this Islamic belief system on the other books, like the Bible, the Torah, and the New Testament, is entirely wrong in the society and in the culture where I grew up. Because that's where when we were listening to these people, so they said that Injil is changed, Injil is corrupted, and the Old Testament is corrupted. In Injil, particularly, they have this idea that Injil, like Quran, according to Muslim, nazal, it just it just came from God, and it fell on Muhammad like rain, like it's coming from the sky, and it landed on him through Gabriel or whoever brought it to him. And this says that Injil was given to. This is again, it's not written. It's not written in Quran. Um, uh, because all the references which David mentioned, there was no such thing at all. But what I'm telling you is that Quran is strengthening the whole authenticity of the gospel, whereas the Muslim tradition or the Muslim practices actually, go totally against the Quranic teachings. So Quran doesn't talk about that Injil was given to Jesus Christ, but Muslims believe that Injil is a book, just like Quran was, or Zabur is also a book like Quran, which is given to David, Prophet David or King David. So, and we as Christians, we know that those books were written under the influence of revelation, and then things were revealed to the prophets, and then they put things together. And in case of Gospels, the whole account was actually mm, written by the disciples, and then the early fathers somehow managed to select it. Muslims have a different story about the selection of the Gospels too. They said that they put all the Gospels, all the disciples wrote the Gospels, and then they put those Gospels on the table, and then the Holy Spirit stirred, or I don't know, a gust of wind came in, and the four of the books were left on the table, and all the other gone. This is just before that, when they started talking about the age of the gospels, like at what time what gospel was written, and And then they started talking about the synoptic gospel and the gospel of John, and the difference in the timeline of the first gospel and the gospel of John, and it's like, and how that the synoptics are talking almost the same, and how John is different because John is talking about the deity of Jesus Christ. So that's a different topic, but what I'm trying to say is that even in Quran there is no such mention that the book came from God and it was given to Jesus as Quran was given to Jesus. But 90% Muslims in Asia, I know, and the common Muslims in the West also, who immigrated from all those African and Asian countries, they believe that Injil or the gospel was given to Jesus as Quran was given to Muhammad. So that's the whole ideology is different, and whole concept is different, and that tells how different the general concept is, and how different the Quranic ideology is about the Bible, Torah, or the New Testament separately. So now they criticize all the time, like it is corrupted and all that. And then at the same time, the funny part is, which always makes me laugh, and then I say, like, as I always say, like, there are different, all Muslims are hypocrite, I believe. But I think the highest degree and the highest order of hypocrisy is when it comes to Pakistani Muslims. They are at the top of the list. They are really like they outsmart all the other Muslims when it comes to being hypocrite. Because and then all those apologists too, because when it comes to criticizing the gospel, they always criticize the gospel, and then at the same time, they also talk about getting references from the Old Testament and the New Testament. I think, and as stupid Christians, they are really unable to change the gospel, that part of the gospel. They changed every part of the gospel. They were so focused on proving that Jesus was Son of God, and the connecting the Old Testament with the New Testament, and putting in all those stories of proving that Yehuda, uh, Judah, son of David, son of Jacob, slept with his daughter-in-law, and he accepted it instead of denying it. And David committed adultery, and he accepted it. And then, according to Muslims, these stories never happened, and we as Christians, we or Jews, we put these stories in there because and other all the other stories about the prophets' misdeeds and bad things that they did, but they don't see one thing, which I always say is that Bible, I think, is a naked book. It doesn't hide anything. It tells you, it gives you the absolute true account of a person, of a human, of human nature of a person. Bible tells you that be it Judah, or be it David, or be it Solomon, or be it any other person, they could be prophets, but they were human being, and they were also full of mistakes. But the most beautiful thing that the Bible tries to describe is that these people were not hypocrites, and these people were not liars, and they were not Muslims, though all the prophets were Muslims according to the Muslim theology. And they could have denied all their sins like the way we do it all the time in the modern world. But they never did that. They admitted it when even when they had a chance, because nobody saw them doing that except for God. And even with that kind of luxury of not having anybody around when they were committing those sins, those people, those all prophets or all those people of the Old Testament, they committed all those sins, and then they admitted it, and then they repented for it, and then they paid the price for it, and then they tried to recover from it by proving that they committed sin and they are ashamed of it and they repented for it. So and then ultimately they got atonement for it too. So what I'm saying is that the corrupted Bible is used all the time to give references for Muhammad, and we Christians have been extremely stupid, next level stupid, I would say, who never removed those references either from the book of Deuteronomy or the Songs of Solomon or from the book of John. We just kept them there so that Muslims could come over in the modern days and then tell us that Muhammad is mentioned over there. But this is a different thing uh, because uh, the Islamic dilemma is so huge. I mean, and this corruption of the Bible is part of the Islamic dilemma, and the treating the Old Testament and the New Testament with respect is also is part of the Islamic dilemma, and believing in those books and yet calling them corrupt is a part of the Islamic dilemma. And we, growing up as kids, as an adult, as a young boy, we have faced the pointy end of the sticks by living in Pakistan and listening to all this nonsense every day and not firing back because we were told by our parents. Actually, when a Christian child is born in a family in Pakistan and he starts to understand it the first 3 or 4 years of age, he's told that when you go out and people tell you that you're a Christian and you are kafir and your book is wrong and Jesus is not Son of God, you don't have to retaliate, you don't have to respond to that. So, so I think it's David brought it. The topic was very good, and David put things together very nicely. And I think it's a hard truth that Quran versus the general Muslim belief system is entirely the opposite to each other. And I once again I admire David for working on this topic so well. Truth is that uh, this general concept of or the practice of the Muslim people versus the Quran is based mostly on hadith and and I think the hatred towards kuffar, which includes um, the people of the book, people of the other books like Jews and Christian. I think Muslims they hate Jews and they hate Christians, and that's one reason that they created all those hadiths, and then from hadiths they pick up the stories. Like there is so much discrepancy in hadith and Quran. Like Quran, if you read Quran, people there are verses and there are surahs and there are chapters which are talking about people asking miracles from Muhammad, and he did not have a miracle, and that's why they were asking miracle from him, like where are your miracles like Jesus, if you have miracles like Jesus, or do you have miracles like Moses, and then verses are coming and Gabriel is coming and Gabriel is giving him the material to tell them that no, um, um, this guy has no miracles because the time of the and Ramadi, the guy in Dallas, Texas, he has this. He was asked this question like why Muhammad did not have the miracles like Muhammad, why Muhammad did not have the miracles like Jesus or Moses or all the other prophets like Elijah and Elisha. And he said that this was not the time of miracles, and if miracles were required, God would have given him the miracles. But God gave him a bigger miracle, and the miracle of Muhammad is Quran. And Quran, God promised the Quran is not going to change. And now people like Jay Smith are there, and they are telling us like there are 30 different kind of Qurans, and there is so much difference in every Quran. And now that whole thing is being challenged. And I think it is being challenged because there had been no research. And the people who were supposed to go against this whole concept that not even a dot in the Quran is changed were the Westerners or the people in Asia who were minorities. By minorities, I mean Christians, Hindus, or other people, and they did not have any command or grip on the language, and that's why they never tried to entertain the subject. They never tried to dig deeper. And then people like Jay Smith and some people before him, they started working on it, and now they are there where they are presenting data where you have no answer to that data. So going back to uh, one thing that I would like to really talk about is that Daniel Haqiqatjou failed to give the answers to everything, and even in the answering the question question session, and during the question session, he was also like totally lost. But one thing that he said, I want to address it, and I left a message. under David and Apostle Prophet's podcast too. Like Daniel said, that have you ever seen a Muslim desecrating a Bible? And that was a stupid question. And he dared ask this question in front of the American audience because in America, it never happened. In America, Muslims know that the day they are going to do this, this is going to be a very, very chaotic, very, very disrespectful thing to do. And this could change the entire picture of their acceptance and their religious freedom. So they don't do it. But what about countries like Pakistan? I mean, when you go and burn those churches in Pakistan, how many Bibles do you burn? When you attack people's houses and you throw their material out and you throw the books out, and then you walk on those books, how many Bibles that you just step on in the streets? And when you forcefully convert people in Pakistan, don't you throw their Bibles away like you don't need them? I remember when things happened in Sweden and in Pakistan, um, the toilets are most toilets in the houses and the public toilets are not like now everybody has those seat toilets on which you sit like the standard toilet in practice in the West. But still there are like more than 80% people still use those toilets on which you sit on your hunches. And then there is this dry commode on which you sit. And then, on those dry commodes, uh, I can swear for that people painted the flag of Sweden and what it has, the flag of Sweden. It has a cross on it. So they painted cross inside their commodes and then they pass their shit on it. And then they say that they don't desecrate anything. I mean, this is absolute nonsense on the part of Daniel Haqiqatjou. He thinks that he can ask this question in a country like United States and get away with it. But I mean, there are people who have seen all this happening, and we have seen it happening in our churches. I have seen 19 of my cousins dying in one bomb attack in a church, 19 at one time in Peshawar. What is he talking about? How many Bibles are desecrated every day? How many times they attack churches? How many times they break crosses? How many times they go and break the statues of Mary and others say and they burn the pictures for 14 stations inside Catholic churches. This is a common practice, Daniel Hagikachu. You really don't know anything about it, or you're pretending, or you are taking a chance with American audience that you can go ahead with it. I think there's a new debate which is just uploaded. It is called "Who Treats Jesus with More Respect," and then he's going to tell us. The Muslims are going to tell us that they treat Jesus as the best prophet. He is born with immaculate conception, and he had the miracles no other prophet had. But he was just a miracle. He was just a mere human being. He was a prophet and nothing else. And he has no deity attached to him. He's no God. He's no son. So all those miracles of Muhammad, they are mentioned in the Hadith book, and there is no miracle mentioned in Quran, which is again like a Muslim dilemma, Islamic dilemma, that what Quran says is that he has no miracle and his only miracle is Quran, but this oral tradition or the practices say that he had so many miracles. Water used to flow from his hands when people were thirsty. These kind of nonsense things, God forbid me. Anyway, all those miracles of Jesus that they are going to mention, or they tell us, like when Jesus was born, he started speaking as an infant. When Mother Mary was carrying him and telling people like, stop doing bullshit. I am born under the force of uh, the Holy Spirit, and I'm a prophet, and I'm going to help you get rid of the bondage from your enemies. This kind of, and then he used to make birds and breathe life in them. So these are all from the Gnostic Bibles and the Gnostic Gospels that the people in Saudi Arabia had. Those are the people who were not Trinitarian and they were Unitarian, or they were not Unitarian. Maybe they were just trying to get rid of the whole idea of this, and they had their own gospels. And some say this is a gospel. Whose gospel was that? I don't. Gospel of Thomas had these kind of stories, which was found in Arabia. So Muhammad did not have access to all the real gospels. So he had the access to all those stories, which were the Gnostic gospels available in Arabia. And that's how. And the first thing he knew that he has to break the myth of Jesus Christ was by proving that he was not the son and he was just an ordinary human being and he didn't die on the cross and he's going to come back and then die so that he and Muhammad could be on the even ground. So his attack was on deity of Christ and his personality so that he could excel himself. So that's my way of looking at it. But anyway, hats off to David Wood. I think he's doing an amazing job, and the Apostle Prophet has joined him too. They were working together for quite some time. And like I always say that there was a hand of David Wood in conversion of Nabil, and there's a hand of David Wood in conversion of Apostle Prophet. So maybe there's some truth to it. But anyway, he's being used by the Lord, and I hope and I pray that our Lord blesses David more so that he could do all these kind of debates because we needed somebody with that kind of knowledge, wisdom, temperament, intensity, and commitment, so that you know, so that all this nonsense which is flying all that time through all those Muslim clerics could be taken care of. Uh, Amen for the good work David is putting in. Thank you very much.